but my Aunt Lena was Meshugala Dover. She was absolutely
Driven woman.
driven. And I guess she knocked on doors we never heard of before, relatives, distant relatives, whatever, and schlepped together the bond and finally sent us affidavits. Now we had problems in Vienna. First of all, we needed passports to get out, and we needed to get exit permission and all that. And
This is what year again?
1940. Late 39, early 40s.
When was the war, when was the war declared?
The war was 1939.
So the war is on.
Yeah.
The war is on, and you're
With
trying to get out with Poland.
Yeah.
Vienna,
Poland,
Austria,
Poland, England, France.
Austria is part of the German Empire now, and you and your family has a chutzpah and try to leave during all this. Okay, so what happens?
The other thing we had to, the other bridge we had to cross is we had to go to the American consulate for a medical exam because we were concerned about people bringing in disease.
Tuberculosis, yeah.
Now the eye disease particularly, we were very concerned, trachoma, whatever it was. And I remember we made up, they had to read eye charts. My parents were both terribly nearsighted. My mother's glasses.
As are you.
Oh, I'm nothing compared to them.
Oh.
My mother's glasses were about a half an inch thick at the rim and wafer thin in the middle. So we memorized the charts. I don't know where we got the information from. And I'm sure the doctors knew damn well.
Yeah.
But they didn't give a damn.
Yeah, compassion.
But we were concerned about leaving the house to go to the embassy, to the consulate, leaving the house to get the passports.
Is that because you're concerned it's not a house to come back to, or that's because you're under house
Got
arrest?
a house arrest.
Right. So how do you leave? Right.
Scared.
Right. And how far would that have been?
In the first district.
Oh, so at least it's in the neighborhood.
Well, more or less.
Okay.
But you got a taxi or something to take you there, and you wouldn't walk there.
You're taking your life in your hand, just leaving your apartment.
The German offices, they took over the Rothschild mansion. That's where the offices were. And the American consul, of course, was a different thing. But little by little, we schlepped together what was necessary, and we were able to leave in February of 1940. And we left by train to Italy.
Bringing what with you?
A couple of suitcases of clothes.
That's about it.
That's it. My father took his life in his hand. He had hollowed out a shoe and put a $5 bill in there that he had left. Had he been caught, that would have been the end of all of us.
Everything else you just left behind.
There was nothing to leave. The wreck of the old furniture, his glass in the workshop. What's it today?
Got a pot-belly stove. Okay.
Yeah, what's it today? And you couldn't sell the stuff. Who were you going to sell it to? Who would buy it? And so we left.
I'm sorry. Let me. It just occurs to me. Did you folks pay rent
Sure.
during the war also?
What do you think? We lived there for free?
Exactly. Where's that? That's life savings.
Whatever. Yeah.
It's just
I don't know how my
fascinating.
parents managed.
It's really quite extraordinary.
I don't know how to manage.
Okay, it's really unbelievable.
2 years without working.
Exactly. I don't know. All right, so you make it out. So you're taking the train. You're leaving
Took the train to Italy.
from Vienna to
From
Italy.
Vienna.
Wow, that's a long train ride.
To Trieste. I don't know what Trieste is now, if it's still Italy or not.
I think it is. I think it
That
is.
was Italy. And there we were to take the ship to the United States.
That would be the Saturnia.
That would be SS Saturnia, which later became a troop ship for America, and which was the last journey she made out of Italy before Italy entered the war.
Really unbelievable. Unbelievable.
As far as I know, it was the last journey. And
Traveled as in what, steerage class?
probably third class. Third class. I know it's called. I'll tell you, compared to how people lived before, this was Gan Eden, this
Yeah, sure.
third class. I mean, we weren't squeezed together in the hold with thousands or hundreds of other people, like say the slave ships were. So.
Right.
We had a cabin for the three of us,
And meanwhile, you're on your way
and
to
we
freedom.
had meals, good meals, kosher meals,
Kosher meals.
yeah, challahs and Shabbos, and you know.
Really?
And we were served. I remember we stopped probably in Greece or something along the way, and people brought aboard not cantaloups, grapefruits. We'd never seen grapefruits before. There wasn't. We thought these were awful large, big,
Lemons, is it?
lemons. We were going to bring them to America. You know.
Wow, wait till I see this.
Yeah. No, the voice was good.
Do you remember there being other Jewish people? Because
The whole ship was Jews.
I didn't know that. Is that right? Basically, it's a refugee ship.
Yeah. Yeah. Although maybe in the first class, something may have been some other passengers.
Everybody making their way to freedom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you aware at that point that ships had been turned back?
No.
That's probably just as well.
And if you know anything about the Atlantic in March, was not an easy journey. That's when your storms spin and so forth. This was not a canoe. This was a 30,000-ton ship or something. But
Cork on a.
it's the waves would go 100 feet above the ship, and the ship would plow through the stuff, and we were good and sick. You know.
Do you remember going above deck?
Oh sure. Oh sure. But my father was seasick like anything. I was seasick.
How long do you think that journey took you? Any idea?
How long run?
Across the Atlantic. Any idea how long that took you?
Probably a week or so. I don't know. And there were stops along the way. Trieste, by the way, we didn't have the ship immediately when we got there. We probably spent 3 or 4 days waiting for the ship. And I was on the high.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. I never liked coffee except for Trieste coffee. It was delicious, the aroma and the rolls and the
everything tastes better when you're free.
Oh, yeah.
You,
I remember after being deprived for 2 years.
Sure. It's unbelievable. So, you make it across the Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
You pull into New York Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
Make a left past the Statue of Liberty.
Who knows?
You remember seeing it? Do you remember seeing it? There's much talk that everybody talks about it.
I have no recollection of the Statue of Liberty, and if I had seen it, it meant absolutely nothing to me.
And but at a pit stop at Ellis Island.
Sure. We spent probably a week or so there in Ellis Island. Again, the examined, medical examination and so forth. And there may have been some complications, I don't remember what, so that we weren't discharged immediately.
So you stayed there for a bit?
We stayed there probably about a week or so.
And then you dock.
Mm-hmm.
You remember anybody waiting for you there on the other side?
Oh, sure.
They were there. They were there to greet you when you came over.
Oh, yeah. But we couldn't go with them.
I understand that. Not until you were released from Ellis Island.
Yeah. Then we went to my aunt's apartment
in the Bronx.
In the Bronx, and she had 3 more customers for that 1-bedroom apartment.
So who's living there now at this point? It's Dora.
Dora and Ani.
Hensha.
No, Hensha is already out. They had their own apartment.
Ah, okay. So Dora,
Ani.
Lena.
No, Lena lived in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Lena never married, and
we should probably talk about your aunts and uncles.
She was a very strong woman, very difficult woman. My poor uncle. Eventually, Lena moved in with Dora, and he had it
on both sides.
On both sides.
So in the apartment then it would have been...
It would have been my parents, me, honey, Dora, and my sister. One bedroom.
Yeah, that's cozy. That's cozy. How long did that arrangement last?
Probably till late summer, early fall, because in the fall, I know we were living on Basket Avenue in the Bronx, and my aunt had enrolled me at the Salanta Yeshiva in the Bronx, so we were already out of her apartment. Whether we went out, left in August or September, I don't know.
So how old would you have been at this point when you came over?
How old was I?
Yeah, when you came over?
I was 12. This was 1940. I was born 1928. And this must have been in March by the time we got here or something. And I was enrolled in a public school near my aunt's apartment, where I attended until the end of that semester. Then in the fall, I transferred to Salanta Yeshiva. I didn't know a word of English. Not a single word. Didn't know yes or no. Nothing. Obviously, my parents didn't either.
You spoke what? Yiddish?
Yiddish. Or German. I was probably about the height of this table. I was never any great giant, and the years of not having adequate food and so forth didn't help any. So I was very small, and so when my aunt enrolled me in the public school, they put me in first grade, along with the other first graders.
12-year-old boy.
Yeah.
First grade.
Yeah. Well, they knew a hell of a lot more than me because they spoke English. I have told the story many times. I've had a lot of teachers in my life. I can't remember too many of them. But I'll never forget the name of my first grade teacher with whom I spent one day. Her name was Mrs. Regel.
Regel?
Regel. How do I know that? Because I asked the signing driver in the office where I should go. She told me to Mrs. Regel, first grade. I walk up and down the hall, I don't see any Regels. I should know Regel is spelled W-R-E-G-G-E-L.
What's that again?
W-R-E.
W-R-E, oh, Regel. Sure. Who knew W?
That would be Regel. Regel.
You can't find her.
Anyhow, I spent a day in there. I think the first graders were taller than me. And since I was that much of a held, and I didn't know any English to begin with, it was an appropriate place. But I spent a day there, and then I was promoted to second grade. And
You're a quick
by
learner.
the time I finished in June, I was probably at fourth grade. Now, I had been a good student in Vienna, but number one, my instruction was all in German.
Sure.
I read German voraciously, but not anything else. And secondly, I'd been out of school for 2 years.
Right.
So I've forgotten a lot, including anything other than rudimentary math or whatever. Anyhow, in the fall, I was enrolled at Salanta Yeshiva in the Bronx, and I stayed there until 1945. No, wait a second, 1943, I think. And in the 2 years, I went from grades 4 to finished grade 8. But it's not that I was such an outstanding student myself. All the refugee kids were really much more on the ball than the American kids. So much so that when we were in the school in the fall already, or in the spring of the following year, we marked the spelling papers for the American kids. Myself, another Viennese boy. We made good grades and then finished it. Then I went from there to Yeshiva High School and college, eventually.
All the while you're living on Bequeathed Avenue with your parents?
Bequeathed Avenue.
How did they take to the transition?
Well, my father was in his early 50s.
Young man.
Young man, so. But those years with the Nazis had taken a toll. He was very strong. His arms, his hands were very strong. And when we moved to Bequeathed Avenue, there's no question he could not open a glass shop. And it's a different kind of work here than it was in Vienna. So he looked for something he could do. And when he was a kid in Poland, he learned how to fix umbrellas. Don't ask me how. And somehow we were connected, again, I don't know how it was done, by whom, whatever, with a man, Jewish man, who was in the umbrella manufacturing business. And he would bring to the house tubs of umbrella ribs and the slides in which it would go, and my father would put them together.
Assemble
them, and he got so much per 100 or whatever.
So he wasn't just reconditioning old umbrellas. He was actually manufacturing. He was a one-man sweatshop.
He was a one-man sweatshop. He was putting together the frames. Now, he didn't put in the sticks. He didn't put on the cloth. All he assembled was the frame. I did my share of them too. No problem with that. There's it's an umbrella.
Spring.
There's a thing on top that the spokes fit into, and there's a slide, and so he got the wires pre-cut for the size that was required, and he got the slides and things, and he would put together. I think he got whatever it was per dozen.
Okay.
Put them together. Then he, at first we did upstairs in the apartment. Then he rented the empty storefront on the first ground level of the building. It had been standing empty. I don't know how much rent he paid, but for the landlord it was found money, and for him it was a place to. So there, these were war years. Metal was very scarce, very expensive. People, even when we were making new umbrellas, sometimes would use recycled because you couldn't get the metal. So I'd go on the street after a rain or something. I'd pick up discarded umbrellas. People threw away umbrellas because it broke or something. And I'd bring them home, and we'd open it up. And if they were salvageable, I'd remove the rib or two or three that were broken and replace them, and sew it up again. And we had an umbrella, and we'd sell them for $3, $4. It cost us nothing. Then eventually my father bought new covers, the cloth. And so that cost something already. And we reconditioned, including new covers, and because the old may have been torn, whatever have you. And we sold for a few bucks. Today, you go into any store and buy two for $5, and you just press the button and they open up automatically.
Right.
In those days,
Yeah.
You couldn't. Today you couldn't do it.
No.
No,
Because they're disposable now.
Yeah. I might go to a number of stores, luggage stores that were in the neighborhood, and I'd say, if you put a sign on your door that you fix umbrellas, we'll come once a week and whatever and pick them up and fix them and share it. We'll charge you $1.50. You can charge $2.50.
Right. You make a profit.
Yeah. So we had a few stores that we got this together from, and that's how my father schlepped together the money on which we lived.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Again, it's amazing that that's enough to make a parnasa from.
When I went away, when I went to Yeshiva was in Washington Heights, and we lived in the Bronx.
Mm-hmm. You're not talking high school.
High school and college.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Both. I'd need $1 a day for a bus fare and to buy lunch or something. So that was always provided. There was never any problem with that. My father never questioned it, never. But I'm trying to think.
Do you remember your bar mitzvah?
Oh, my bar mitzvah was very fabulous. My bar mitzvah was...
Because it's in the Bronx.
It was in the bequeathed shul.
In the bequeathed shul.
You know what blech means?
Oh, bequeathed, not bequeathed.
Bequeathed. Tin shul.
Tin shul, sure.
Because at one time, I guess the roof was tin. That must have been 20 years earlier. It wasn't tin anymore then. But it was also bequeathed shul. I was 13 in 1941. My aunt sent out invitations. I'll show you an invitation. Mm-hmm. Max Korn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And do you remember what you did for your bar mitzvah?
I did have Torah.
You did have Torah.
I did have Torah. My teacher at the Salon to help me prepare me. Rabbi Wind, wonderful. Mm-hmm. And he wrote my dissertation for me in Yiddish. English I couldn't talk much yet, but Yiddish was no problem. And so I did had my mafta and then I did a Dvar Torah, and people came up afterwards to my father to congratulate him on how well I spoke in Yiddish. I mean, it's a wonderful thing. Who can speak Yiddish like that?
That's high Yiddish. That's great.
They should know Yiddish. I could speak.
Yeah, English, forget it.
I lost my train of thought in the middle of the thing, but I recovered.
Shabbos bar mitzvah.
It said somewhere, the Chachamim said, and I forgot what the Chachamim said.
Hopefully they remember.
No, she said, haben gesagt, the Chachamim. Haben sie so gesagt.
What's that mean?
They said this, and they said in this such.
They said this and that.
I had to remember what they said.
Fill some dead air.
They never caught that.
They
never
did
caught it. No.
Boy, it'd be nice.
But how good my Yiddish was.
It'd be nice if you had that speech today. That'd be a find.
My Yiddish was wonderful.
That'd be a find. Family came in for it? There's a Shabbos bar mitzvah. No one's traveling.
There's a Shabbos bar mitzvah. I don't know about family coming. Yeah, probably my aunt's and uncle over there. Probably.
Kiddush? You remember
I
Kiddush?
Don't anymore. A little Kiddush, there's nothing special. I mean, not the lavish affairs that have these days.
Now, at this point, again, it's your parents and you living in Bathgate Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Where's Molly and where's Molly at this point? Is she with you?
With us.
She is with you.
Yeah.
All right. Hesh is
still in Europe until Jonas in 1945. He bummed around Europe, I think, for a year after the war.
So all this is going. You're having a bar mitzvah. He's in Auschwitz.
Well, yeah, sure.
He didn't know. He didn't know where he was at that point.
Oh, sure.
When Leo's in Holland, excuse me, Leo's in England. When did you get brought together with Hesh?
Hesh came to the States, I think, 45.
Do you remember how that was?
Again, Very unusual kid. He didn't learn any trades in Auschwitz. I mean, he couldn't make a living from wrapping wires.
Right.
Came to the States, didn't have a trade. His education was limited to what he learned before he went into the concentration camp.
Right. He's right. He's older and he's got no education.
Right. But he's a very bright, very astute young man. And enrolled in the Ort school. You know what Ort is?
Technical school.
Yeah.
Jewish technical school.
Was made especially for
refugees
to learn the trade.
Ort is still around. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know who they educate today, but they're still around.
And he learned how to repair phonographs at Ort. And then he found a job in New York.
GE, no?
Pardon?
This General Electric, wasn't it?
I don't remember who it
before
was. Eventually ended up with the big radios.
RCA, no?
I don't remember. But anyhow,
yeah.
he took the job and repaired phonographs.
I'm sure he also overpromised what he knew. All right.
And this was a time when electronic instruments first came on the scene. The forerunners of today's electronic instruments.
Hi-fi.
Instruments you never heard of before. Organos. Have you heard of organo?
I'm guessing it's something related to an organ.
Electronics.
Uh-huh.
And one day a customer comes into the store and brings one of those organos with him. Can you repair this? Of course. And he did. And asked him, Hesh, how did you do it? You don't know anything about it. Somebody you don't know. You go, yeah, you do it.
Give it a clap.
Yeah, you do it. So he became now the expert on
organos.
Electronic instruments.
Extraordinary.
Little by little, he worked his way up and went independent. Worked out his workshop in the apartment. And somehow or other, I don't know how, he got involved with big names in the entertainment business. And people like, I don't know.
Barbra Streisand, he's on.
Yeah, Barbra Streisand and others. And if Barbra Streisand wanted to give a producer a birthday present, what, you going to send him cash? She's going to send him, she sent him Herman. Herman should wire his whole house for sound. So he became a specialist in doing this kind of thing for the knackers and the entertainment business.
Must have been exciting.
Yeah.
What was it like for your parents when Hesh came back? Do you remember?
He's amazing.
Do you remember that? Do you remember him coming back?
Sure. Long thought that they'd never see him again. Like my brother Bibi, when we were still in Vienna, my sister and my brother used to write every week. And then Bibi didn't write anymore. And my sister was making all sorts of excuses. He was very tired and went to sleep early. He's not here. My mother said, "Er ist gestorben." He's dead. Mom, how can I say so? Mama knows. She knew.
Extraordinary.
She knew. But
when Hesh comes back and carrying all of his darkest secrets with him, because I can't imagine he burdened himself to your parents.
No talk.
Didn't talk. Right. Didn't talk to him much till only fairly recently, actually.
Yeah, didn't talk. He did extremely well for himself. Eventually, he's the one who sustained my mother, paid the rent, and then paid for the food and everything else. Could have stayed in this country, become extremely wealthy. And then the Korean War broke out. It was 1950. And he said, well, am I going to go? I'm going to be drafted and go over there to fight with people I've got nothing to do with? Michigan. There's not enough death already killings. There's only one place for a Jew to be, at Eretz Yisrael.
That's great. So he fulfills his Bnei Akiva dreams.
So he left everything. Now he had money invested in the States. My sister's still managing it, or was managing it for him. He has accounts in the States. And he went to Israel. What did he do when he went to Israel? With all his knowledge of electronics and so forth, he went into the leather goods business.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Leather goods. With some partners, whatever have you.
I never knew that.
Eventually, there must have been a falling out.
He came back to electronics.
Eventually, there was a falling out or something. So he left the leather goods business. Have you ever heard of bequeathed?
No.
He's been multi-millionaire today.
Is that the business he left?
Bequeathed is the biggest leather coats and...
Is that who he left?
Yeah.
Well, that hurts.
I don't care.
So much for the falling out.
So after that, what's the next thing he does with all of his knowledge of electronics? He goes into the elevator business.
There's a lot more riding.
Hey, what do you know about elevators? Nothing.
There's a lot more riding on your success.
You go there.
And the elevator goes down the shaft.
Yeah. So he I don't know what he did with the elevator repairs, installation, I don't know what there was. And then from the elevator business, he went to the X-ray business.
X-rays.
So,
He's amazing. How'd your mother transition?
Not too well. She aged. In this process, aged both of them, my mother and my father, very, very much. She lost a lot of the verve that she had as a young woman. I remember as a young woman, I was maybe 7 years old, 6 years old, was sitting in front of the mirror and combing her hair and all that. It was gone. She did the cooking and the cleaning, and then she'd schlep a glass of coffee down to my father in the shop. She'd have something with a piece of bread or something, and that was it. That was it. And of course, when he died, she survived him for a number of years. She became very, very, I think, disoriented to a certain extent. Very paranoid, and after her, some they. We brought her to when we were in Rochester. We brought her to visit right after my father died. It wasn't an easy visit. Poor Gloria. She accused Gloria of stealing from whatever have you. But that's it took its toll.
How old was your father when he passed away?
Well, he passed away in '55, shortly before Jeff was born. That's why he's named after him.
Mm-hmm.
He was born in '84. You do the arithmetic.
And your mother? How many years longer did she live than your father?
She outlived him by 10 years.
Wow.
I think, but yeah.
And she lived on her own the whole time? Hesh was
She lived with Hesh.
And she didn't leave until she passed away?
Yeah, pretty much. No. He left in the 50s. No, wait a second. My father, over Shalom, died on September 29th of 55. And my mother died on March 27th of 61. So she outlived him by 6 years. Something like 6 years. He died Erev Sukkot. No, died the day before Erev Sukkot. The funeral was Erev Sukkot. And so we didn't have any Shiva. Yom Tov took away Shiva. My mother died shortly after Tisha B'Av, and her funeral was on Chamishasa B'Av, and the rabbi made the hesped, and mentioned that Chamishos of used to be a great
Tu B'Av. That was a love holiday.
A great holiday.
Tu B'Av. It was Tu B'Av and Yom Kippur. They said were the day.
A great Jewish holiday.
Look at that.
A great joyous holiday.
Their funeral was on Tu B'Av. Shouldn't pass away until your funeral was on Tu B'Av.
That's right.
Dad, we're going to stop here. We've been talking for 2 hours, and the tape is running to an end, and we'll pick up, hopefully, God be willing, tomorrow.
What's more to talk about?
Oh, there's much more to talk about tomorrow.